Hi, thanks for watching GeekWire Studios. I'm Brian Westbrook and very excited to be joined by Anil Cherian, the Chief Technical Officer and Executive Vice President of Strategy with Cognizant. And now I want to get first to you, have an impressive resume. Tell us a little about your background and how you came to Cognizant.
So I've got 30 years in consulting in a company called PricewaterhouseCoopers. Started off as Coopers & Lybrand, then it became PwC, and then IBM bought us, so I was in IBM for a little bit of time. And one of my clients was SunTrust Banks, and so I became the CIO of SunTrust. I got a call from the CEO saying, can you be the CIO here? And so I ran all of tech and ops for the bank. Then I retired. I thought I retired, and I got a call from the White House to become the White House head of technology transformation services, which is 2 years of really good fun, really good activity. Probably the best part of my career until then, because I was really giving back to the country, and did that for 2 years. And then I got a call from Cognizant to help run the strategy for the firm, as well as all of the technology, both partnerships, alliances, and so on, and our internal IT and security. So I took that because I knew Cognizant. Cognizant was a competitor of mine when I was out there. It was a service provider for me when I was the CIO. And I felt I could really help the company.
That's a great background, and we're going to use some of that as a little bit as we explore some of these topics. But at the White House, you were the Technology Transformation Services, working in that world. Talking about one of the big buzzwords of any conference these days is digital transformation. First of all, define it for us, because I'm not sure that in my years of covering technology, I've heard a good, solid explanation of digital transformation. No pressure. And how are we doing? Are we there? Are we done?
No, it's really an overused buzzword. Digital transformation, when you hear from so many different people, they call anything digital transformation. I think the simplest way to think about it is the interaction between us as consumers or consumer to business. If you automate that and digitize that, we have a huge opportunity to do that. You know, we've been using computers in the back office for many years. They started coming into the front office, and then with the advent of cloud and data and IoT and so on, the ability to really transform the interaction model between a human being and an entity, that's what digital transformation is all about. Take the whole going to a bank. Who goes to the branch anymore? You do it all online, you do it on your phone. That's a massive transformation that's been taking place over the last few years. When you started flying, you dealt with a ticketing agent, you walked in, you checked in, and you got your little piece of paper. Who does that anymore? It's all transformed, right? That's what digital transformation is all about, completely changing the experience and making that a digital experience from an end-to-end perspective. Huge opportunity. It's just never ending right now because so many industries got to go through this.
And some of this evolution, obviously banking, we've changed from going to the branch to using machines and online banking. My bank, for example, doesn't have branches. You mentioned ticketing. I remember going to the ticket counter and they'd print something up and they'd always tear it.
Right.
Print and tear, and then they'd throw it. I don't know where all those papers went, but now we have mobile boarding passes and even facial recognition to get on an airplane, so you don't have a lot of that. What is Cognizant doing? Let's bring Cognizant into this picture. What is Cognizant doing to evolve and mature digital transformation? And first, maybe tell us what Cognizant is and what you do.
So think about the Cognizant is really what we call a global systems integrator. So we're the team that comes in and helps a lot of these firms, a lot of these clients drive this massive transformation from a business perspective, from a process standpoint, from a technology standpoint. And also, once it's done, we help execute and run these systems for them. So think of us as being a technology integration and services provider. And we've been in business since 1993. We've grown significantly over those years. We're now close to $20 billion in revenue. We're global. And if you think about our strategy, our fundamental strategy is 4 pillars. One is to become much more relevant for our clients. Okay. When our clients are looking to make changes, we want to be really relevant for their ability to get things done. Secondly, to be more digital. what is digital? When we were, 2-3 years ago, most of our work used to be, we'll take your mess for less, and we'll provide you with some bodies, and we'll manage your technology. Digital is this whole transformation of moving people, as we talked about, moving people to the cloud, putting in data solutions, AI solutions, IoT solutions, really improving the experience. So that's, strategy number 2. Third strategy is really about growing globally. We've got a huge presence in the US and the Americas. We've got some presence in what's called GGM, or growth markets, which is EMEA and Asia Pacific. And we really feel that the opportunity is there to grow globally, to service our clients, frankly, on a global basis. And so we're growing globally is our third strategy. And the last pillar of our strategy is about really improving our brand. When you talk about Cognizant, a lot of people in the US know who Cognizant is. When you go to somewhere in Italy, for example, they'll say, well, it's Cognizant. I don't know what that is, right? So we have to really improve our brand, get everybody to understand who we are, what we do, and so those are really the 4 pillars of our strategy. Driving digital transformation is really the core piece, and being more relevant to our clients is really something that we're trying to do as we evolve Cognizant.
And speaking of evolving Cognizant, I know you've had a number of acquisitions over the past handful of years or so. How have those acquisitions folded into the Cognizant family to make Cognizant what it is today?
Yeah, what we felt was to really grow, we could grow organically. Hire more people, build our capabilities, train our new associates. But we felt that the only way to really spur our growth, really improve our opportunity to grow, is to buy a lot of these very focused companies. So for example, AWS services, we created an AWS business group, and we bought a few companies with those capabilities. Same thing we did for some of the other cloud providers, or for Salesforce, or for ServiceNow, or for any of these capabilities. We said, let's go buy the core teams. We had 23 acquisitions over the last 3 or 4 years, and we really drove up the capabilities and integrated them into our practices. So it became core to us, and our ability to then scale once we bought these companies really improved and become more relevant, frankly, to our clients, became a lot more possible. So we focus really on digital companies that are focused on cloud, companies that are focused on AI and data, companies that are focused on IoT, companies that are focused on the whole digital experience and getting things done much more in an agile form. And that's really been our strategy in terms of buying these companies.
One of the things that your customers have almost certainly run into, anytime you bring in another company, you bring in the culture, you bring in their technology, their solutions, integrating that can be a big challenge. Twofold. Number one, having gone through so many acquisitions, what would you say to either your customers or those watching that may have those similar challenges? And 2, how have you kept them from distracting you from your focus of building Cognizant to where you want it to be?
No, if anything, it's really improved our ability to drive the change. But when you think about our advice to our clients, it's really, when we talk to our clients, we talk about outcomes. We talk about what is it that you're really trying to get done. Forget about the technology, as it were. Forget about the platforms and the partners and so on. We will take that and we will handle that. We've got partnerships and with so many different partners. Partners such as the AWSs or the Microsofts or the Googles, partnerships with the Salesforces and so on. And also industry-specific partners who really focus on the industries that we're in. We're very deep in banking. We're very deep in insurance. We're very deep in healthcare. There's a lot of these industries where we really know the workflows, we know how to automate things, we know the end result, but we also have the partnerships to make that happen. So when we talk to our clients, we really said, let's focus on what it is you're trying to get done. Are you trying to improve digital interactions with, if you're a bank, with your clients? Are you trying to improve the way in which you go? Retail companies right now have a huge amount of change, especially since COVID. The curbside pickup, the whole ability to do now actually understand what you're buying
Yep.
from a visual standpoint. I mean, there's so many
Cashierless technology, sure.
cash, and the ability to buy and go. I mean, those are all things that a lot of retail companies are looking at. So if that's your outcome, we can help you organize it, architect it, structure it. We'll bring the right partners together. We'll bring our pre-built solutions that we've been working with these partners on to enable you to get to your answers a lot faster, right? So that's really what we, in terms of how we go to market, that's really our conversations with our clients.
I want to hone in on these pre-built solutions for a little bit, because we think about consulting, we think about digital transformation, we think about starting with a whiteboard, a blank piece of paper, but that's not what Cognizant does. There's a lot of areas where you can pull elements or learnings from previous projects into solutions for the next client. Talk to us about some of those examples.
Yeah, that's so we're not a software company. So
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of software that we have on the shelf that we're going to bring to market.
Right.
What we bring is templatized solutions. So if we've done X for a pharmaceutical company in the clinical data process, we know what that looks like, and we've already pre-built a lot of those solutions, working with our partners, and we bring that to bear for our clients. Those are the types of examples of how we come to market. On rare occasions, we might have a platform. For example, in the healthcare space, we have something called TriZetto, which is a core platform that handles about 70% of all the payments in healthcare in the US. I mean, most of those payments run through our platform. So we can bring that to a lot of providers, a lot of payers, and say, here's a platform that we can reuse. Rarely do we do that. We're not a big platform company.
Right.
We're more of a solution company. We're more of here are the workflows, we've already automated it, these are the templates, these are the pre-built ones, and by the way, when you use that, we get to market faster. That's That's the main reason for it, is agility and the speed to market, and our ability to bring that and stitch it together for our clients.
Right, if your end goal is digital transformation, whatever that may look like for a particular solution, a particular client, sometimes there are, I don't want to call them shortcuts, but best practices that'll get you there faster.
It's accelerators. Just think of that as accelerators. That's what we have. I mean, we're bringing accelerators, and that's really helps our clients get to market faster.
Now let's talk about some of these clients in industry-specific cloud strategy, industry-specific cloud solutions. What are some examples of industries where you've integrated some of these solutions together into a way that's meaningful for the customer, whether it be digital transformation or some of these other areas that you talked about?
I talked a little bit about TriZetto, which is really our payments platform for the healthcare space. But take the clinical process for pharmaceutical companies to evaluate a molecule and go through clinical trials and so on. We have built something called the Shared Investigator Portal that can be used by a whole bunch of pharmaceutical companies that are dealing with the same disease management category, and they can share their information. They can share information across all of these different companies, all of these different clinical providers, to really say, these molecules, here are the adverse events, these are the things that you should look out for, and that enables a lot of these pharma companies to come to solution faster, to provide the data, the clinical data faster to the regulators and so on. That's one of our platforms. We built that. And that's a platform, frankly, that a lot of the top pharmaceutical companies in this country are using. They're all on it. So those are examples of platforms that are ecosystems that are cross-industry that we've used. But in addition to that, take a bank, a commercial lending solution. We've done those before. We've already got relationships with key providers in that space, and we can come to market with the bank to say, look, we've done it 20 times, here's what it looks like, and we can automate this workflow for you using our templates, using our solutions, and so on. So that's what we do for a living. That's how we make our money, as it were, and that's our competitive differentiation. We know these areas, and we can be a lot more competitive against our competition when we come in with these pre-built solutions.
And it sounds like pre-built solutions and leveraging learnings from previous projects, as well as relationships, are all part of the values that you bring to your clients. Speak to me for a second. Like, share some of maybe brag a little bit about how you bring value to your clients. How does Cognizant bring value to its clients?
There's a lot of times. This is the whole pillar, the second pillar of our strategy about being more relevant for our clients. So if you think about it, the easiest way for a services business like ours to make money is for a client to say, hey, I want to move all my stuff to AWS. Give me 30 people, and I think it's 30 because I think that's how much it is.
Sure.
Give me 30 people and we'll do a staff supplementation on our team and just deliver that particular
Throw some people at it.
Throw some people
Yeah.
at it. Staff augmentation. That's an easy way to make money. We don't really want to do just that. What we want to be is folks who can say, hey, you might have thought about doing it. Here are some pre-built solutions that'll speed it up, but also here's a different way to think about it. Here's a different answer, and here's a different solution. And maybe you shouldn't do X. That doesn't make sense to migrate to the cloud right now. Think about why, and really help them rethink the strategy on how you do it. And that's where we become a lot more relevant, right? We might say, don't even bother going down that path. That doesn't give you the real bang for the buck. Go down this other path, and that's where our consultative abilities, and that's where we become much more relevant to our clients. And we might come back and say, this one we've seen so often, these are a bunch of partners that we should go bring in. You don't have any of those. We've got the partnerships and the relationships. Why don't you rethink it in this way? And that's where we become a lot more, we're solutioning with our clients. We're jointly having this conversation. I think that gives us a lot more, the clients deliver a lot more value. Now, you can take that to another level where you can say, look, don't pay us until we reach an outcome. And don't. So that becomes a harder conversation, because that could be about, when you get X and you're satisfied with X, then you can give us, we'll hold so much of our fees at risk, and you pay the rest of it only when you've achieved that. Those are harder conversations, but if you've got a clearly defined scope, you can clearly measure the outcome. Those are things that we take on as well.
Sure.
It's really managed scope, managed output, and a lot of clients see a lot of value in that. And they say, well, that makes a lot of sense, because we're only paying for value, right? We're only paying for what we jointly agreed upon. So
you have a bit of skin in the game. You're vested in this outcome as well, because you're getting paid when the results are there.
So our whole move is moving away from time and material, staff augmentation, to being much more solution-oriented, to being much more outcome-focused, to the point of we're willing to put our money where our mouth is there to really get paid when that happens, right? So that's the path that we're on. When you talk about being more relevant to our clients, that's the direction that we're headed.
It kind of sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it kind of sounds like you're transforming even your business model in a way that matches more with your clients' needs, in so much as rather here's how much this will cost, here's an invoice, here's a proposal, statement of work, make it happen, write the check, you're on to the next project.
It's a massive transformation, and it's not something that we might have trained our clients to buy from us in this staff augmentation mode. So it's a change in our own behavior, the way in which we interact with the clients, and also getting their buy-in on, their trust as well, to say, we trust you to do that. We trust your opinion. We trust your ability to get us to outcomes. That's a massive change. It's not an easy change, but that's the change that we're going through as we speak.
And something in the aspect of change, your clients' customers trust them,
right,
and are demanding in a lot of ways. Stakeholders, shareholders are demanding that your clients become more sustainable. Let's talk for a moment about how digital transformation is evolving sustainability and actually helping your clients reach their goals in sustainability.
So sustainability is really picking up across all of our clients. There's so many conversations that we're having with our clients across the board on sustainability. I think the COP27 that just took place the last couple of weeks has really opened up everyone's minds into it. And what we're finding is that a lot of our clients have said, here's what we want to do from a sustainability standpoint. So net X by Y and so on. And the issue that when we did a quick study on this, we found that 80% of our clients had a pretty much of a vision, but they really didn't know how to get there. And so really what our whole story is, we can help you get there. We know how to get there, whether it's about smart buildings, whether it's about smart IT, whether it's about improving the use of energy, and how does it tie in with digital transformation. All of those are things that we can really help you with. And I think that's really been our focus. In addition to that, what we're also doing is that we have defined for ourselves what is Cognizant's view on sustainability, and we've got a plan to be net positive by 2030, and that's the direction that we're headed. And we've got a huge amount of work that's taken from the board on down within Cognizant in terms of how to get there. So whether it's about smart, we have 350,000 people in so many different countries, so many different buildings, moving to smart buildings, moving to smart IT, consolidating data centers, moving things to the cloud. I mean, a lot of our own move to sustainability is been growing in the last few years, and we've really made that a focused effort.
And I understand your focused effort is involved the bringing on of an executive to just focus on sustainability. What does that look like?
No, she's when it comes to our overall plan from a sustainability perspective, we brought in a very senior individual who is on our executive leadership team, reports to the executive committee and the board on a regular basis on what is our vision, where are we headed, how far along are we, and what are the issues, et cetera, et cetera. That's her focus. I mean, that's what she's been doing. Great individual, brought in, and it's too much for one individual to do everything, but she's really enlisted the support of the full leadership team to everyone help her and help drive this change. It's a phenomenal transformation that we've gone internally to make that a reality.
Internal transformation around sustainability, certainly one big project on the horizon. What is the vision for Cognizant moving forward? What are your next steps? What are you and I going to be talking about right here in a year's time?
So what we've done is, we've grown so fast in the last 15, 20 years. We were a $20 billion company. And as part of that growth, we were very entrepreneurial, and we've really now taken much more of a directed view on our strategy. Our strategy is all about becoming much more digital, driving digital transformation, because I don't think we've seen the end of it. Most companies are about 30 to 40% along the way. There's still a lot more opportunity, and frankly, the way in which technology is going, that's going to continue for some time. Be more relevant to our clients, kind of raise our level of conversation so that we're not just providing technology skills, but we're providing technology solutions. We're bringing together partnerships. We're bringing together an end game that becomes much more relevant for clients. Clients will then be saying, I want Cognizant. It becomes a board member of a client would be saying, why don't you hire Cognizant? They're the ones that we should hire. That's the direction that we're headed. We want to also grow internationally. We're very big in the Americas. We want to grow internationally, and that's our third main pillar. And then the last pillar is about becoming well-known, improving our brand. And I think those are the four pillars of our strategy. That hasn't changed. From a vision perspective, we want to be known as the technology engineering firm that can help our clients to become much more relevant for them as well as for their clients.
That's fantastic. I look forward to watching that. Of course, you and I will check back in a year's time,
Right
2
on.
years' time, maybe in a decade's
Regularly.
time, to see how that vision is going. Thank you for spending the time with us. That is Anil Charia, and he is the Chief Technology and Strategy Officer for Cognizant. And thank you so much. Again, I'm Brian Westbrook. You're watching GeekWire Studios here from AWS reInvent 2022.